Okay, hey everyone. This will be a recording where I show you Room Reader. Uh, you probably know about Room Reader if you're watching this video, but in case you don't, it is a way for you to have the Room sidebar while you're browsing the web and take notes on articles. So currently, like in this video, what I'll be showing you, I thought a fun thing to do would be to Uh, so I have a lot of articles in my reading list for later. And I thought a fun thing to do would be to read one alongside you and then show you a workflow for reading with Roam Reader. So we'll start with that. And like what the thing I'll focus on. So for a bit of context, like Room is for like when you do Room is where you go to, right, when you do serious thinking, right? So like you might want to write stuff, then like deconstruct it into blocks and then think about it, and like that is where your thinking happens. And we wanted to recreate a similar experience while you were reading stuff, because currently when I'm reading stuff, I don't know about you, but my highlights or my annotation system is pretty one dimensional. And yeah, you'll see what I mean as we go along. I've not read this article yet. I've been meaning to for quite some time. It's an article by Michael Nielsen. So let's just start with it. Okay, so you should see my screen now. First things first, I might move this a bit down. First things first, I think one thing that uh, while reading, I generally like to have another like browser open here, and that's because like if I have any tangents or any research, I do this in the other browser. Um, and to be honest, like because this is Zoom, I'm not exactly sure if you can see the full thing. I'm not exactly sure if my face is blocking the other thing. Hopefully not, but I'll just move this here for now. So let me show you Room Reader. You're at a article that you want to read. What you can do is you can click on the Room button, like you'll have to log in the first time, but then you get a title, you get description that is auto fetched from it, and like you can add document tags. We'll do that. You can do that later as well. We'll do that later. And the normal workflow that I use a lot, and that is the default one here, is you have inbox, shortlist, and archive, which are the workflow, like which are the main three buckets, or let's say main three pockets. So inbox, in practice, what this looks like for me is inbox is used for all of the articles that I run into and I find interesting. Shortlist is a shortlisted version of the inbox. In practice, I add a bit too much to my shortlist, but my idea is that like when I have time to read, I go through the stuff in my shortlist first, and if I have the time, then I go through the stuff in inbox. And archive is like after I've read anything, I archive it, or if I'm saving something just for later in case I want to find it and I don't really want to read it, I archive it. But that's really rare. So these are the three things. If you're just using Room Reader for the first time, these are what you'll see. This AI is a custom reading list that I created, which you can create pretty easily. And for now, what we'll do is we'll save this to the shortlist. And it failed for some reason. Yeah, we'll fix that. But yeah, so it worked now. And like when you are going to an article that you've saved already, it shows up as a tick. If you already have highlights, it shows the number of highlights which you have, and so on. Let me first like I think I'll start with a bit of exposition at the starting of this video, and then as we start reading, there'll be a lot less exposition. But let's start. Right click, and then you can open your reading list. And here you can see all of the things I have in my inbox, in my shortlist, archive, AI, and others, which are all of the stuff that have been exported to my room graph from Readwise. So if you take a look at the shortlist one, you can see the thing that we just added. You can see a bunch of other stuff as well. And yeah, you can easily add other reading lists if you have them. What else? Like for the stuff which you already have annotations, you can see that they have annotations like that. And like if you tag stuff, you should see some tags as well. You can see this one, like this one has a bunch of tags. Yeah, but for now, let's just start with, you've probably seen all of these features before. So let's just start with the reading experience. And what you do is like you click on here, and like even if you had not said before, you can just start by clicking on take notes, and then a sidebar appears, and this is where we'll take our notes. I'll just move it to the side. Hopefully that is not blocked. But first, yeah, like when I am like just quickly looking through the article, and like even from the get go, I can see that this is about memory systems, right? And like let's tag the stuff. Like I think SRS is already something that I have in my graph, so it's probably related to SRS. And what else could this be related to? I don't know if I have a memory systems tag in my graph. Memory systems. I have a bunch of stuff about memory, but like none of those are related. Like this does, like I scroll to the end, they were talking about a practice or something right now. So maybe it's related to seniors, like, but maybe I'll not tag that right now. Okay. And when you click on this, it goes to the page in Roam. You can change the reading list from here as well. You can open in Roam, you can go sidebar. For now, we'll just start with it. I like to tag this generally in case like the title that was fetched does not have it in properly. Um, Another thing that you might have realized is that by default, the thing nests your notes underneath today's thing so that it appears in your daily notes page when you have taken highlights. And the other things you can do are you can, for example, change colors. Let's make this red, for example, and you can use this to navigate. Okay. I think I will actually start reading now. This is a topic that I'm really interested about, spaced repetition and stuff like that. And I probably will give a bunch of commentary as I go. Um, but I guess that's part of the fun of making a long form video like this. The reason I chose this article, by the way, was because it was longish, but not that long. And if it turns out that like I've spoken for a very long time, I'll probably stop at the middle, but I'll try to get through it. Another candidate was Paul Graham's How to Do Great Work, but I realized that would probably be a bit too long. But yeah, we can start with this. Right? If memory systems, I'll not speak everything. Okay, yeah. So the commentary starts immediately. If memory systems are so great, why don't far more people use them? This is actually something that I have been thinking about for like a really long time. Like you hear about Anki and stuff like that in specific niche subcultures in the internet, but you don't really hear about it regularly. While you probably should, right? And like even Roam doesn't have a native like SRS feature, and we do have a lot of good plugins. Um, I think the one called Memo by Joe's Brown is pretty good, but we don't have a native thing. We might have one soon, but we don't have any yet. Um, but yeah, this is a question which is like, and by the way, you can just like right, like maybe I want to make this a little bit small, larger. Okay, yeah, hear this question a lot. It's a great system, shocking, powerful. I love this framing. I've always loved this framing. So let's tag it with, and like they make memory a choice. Making memory a choice is such a good, like maybe I want to reinforce that to myself by saying SRS makes memory a choice. Okay. And substantially enlarge the type of creative work a person can do. So, okay, so this is essentially his what this talk or like what this essay will be about. what are the things that need to happen in order for memory systems to be far more widely used. I did not select the N here, but like the other thing, of course, is that like you can change these notes in whatever order. Like sometimes when you're copying from web pages, these don't have proper formatting. You can change them. You changing them will not change the highlights, so you don't have to worry about stuff. Like you might, at the extreme, someone might want to, like, let's say, rewrite every one of their annotations so that like they absorb it more properly, but the backlinking to this will still work after that happens. Okay, I will try to do less exposition now. This is a really good point. Like when we talk about memory systems, we generally talk about speech repetition systems, but like speech repetition is just one part of it, right? Like I like this framing. Yeah, future systems will contain additional important ideas, and in a very important way, we don't yet know what memory systems are. Is also using the term to include memory systems such as memory palaces. Yeah, those feel more like a little bit different to me. Yeah. So right away, I can think of something like these are all about like something different. They're about um, the term memory systems versus what we generally think of as SRS, right? Like maybe I want to make something like memory systems attack as well. And yeah, generally, when we were thinking about Roam Reader, one of the major things we were thinking was that like when you're annotating stuff, let's say you have a physical book. I have a bunch of physical books there, by the way. When you have a physical book, like you're just doing one layer of highlighting, right? You can't nest stuff. Similarly, when you're using most of the annotation tools, you can't really annotate stuff. You can't really add your notes in between, right? Like in many of them, like you can like have notes about highlights, but you can't have notes in between. And this is where having an outliner like Roam has, like this has, is really good. By the way, in case any one of you is distracted by these are mostly because generally when I'm reading stuff, I read like a little bit here, a little bit there, and then read like that. And then the ordering helps me see later what order they are in, and then I might rearrange them on the basis of the ordering. If you open this in Room, for example, the ordering does not show up. So in case you were worried about that, this is, you can see like the colors show up, but the N1, N2, N3 do not show up. So this is just for, or like showing the order while it is displayed here. So that's just for convenience sake. We might add an option to hide that later. Okay, so one another thing is, this might actually not be a good example of that, but like one thing about Room Reader is that it adds your highlight wherever the like empty block which last had the highlight is in. So let's say for example, like I did not choose a good example for that because it does not have a bunch of headings, but like let's say if we have this heading, right, and like maybe you want a different color for the headings. Like let's say this is a heading, and for now let's actually say acknowledgements and footnotes are also headings. Acknowledgements, footnotes. If there were comments, I would have made one of those a heading as well. And like let's retroactively add a heading here. I guess one heading that we have is like intro, right? I could make that my own heading. I could also make all of these bold so they're more visually clearer. Okay. And I just wanted to show like a very common pattern that I do is like in a lot of sites, especially those that have a table of contents, I like to go through it first and then create a short hierarchy of stuff. Like maybe I want a block in each of these, right? And then later, if I'm, for example, reading this, right, I can focus here and then I can take notes, right? Let's change it back to yellow and then it gets added to the place. So yeah, I feel like that's a really useful workflow because it uses the indentation facilities that we have and you can use it pretty easily. But for now, let's remove it and let's go back to where we were. So we're talking about the term memory system. So it's SRS, which is a very cool thing. Like I will probably tag this as memory systems now as well. Okay, let's continue. Um, Consider skillful practices such as yoga, basketball, meditation, dance. By the way, this should have been here. Okay. And like instead of these, uh, you can essentially rewrite stuff as you go. Skillful practices like yoga, dance, etc. And I think the thing is trying to do here is trying to do an analogy in between these skillful practices and memory systems as a practice, right? So now, yes, this is true. Like by small groups over decades and centuries, they were pioneered and intensively developed. This is important. Maybe I'm gonna tag this underneath. I'll move it to the smaller one after I have used for it, but like I kind of want a bigger screen at this point. Much of the learning is collective. Like this is one place where like I kind of had a comment where like, would this be true for memory systems as well? This is one place like generally when I'm reading stuff, I like some stuff I'm really fast reading, but like in some stuff I like to think quite a bit, and this is one of those kinds of stuff. So like in this case, I'm thinking, would this be true for memory systems as well? And like I would imagine that like most people would be using these memory systems alone, right? Like what would a collective memory system look like? I don't know. Similarly, like maybe you could have it in a collective sense in the case of like, let's say you have a group of friends who are all doing like flashcards and like they share their learnings. So this is what creates good prompts. This is how to write good prompts. This is I noticed that like um, this pattern for like I noticed that of like maybe some like if two people are talking, they might one of them might say one common failure mode for me is that I create too many flashcards. Other one says, yeah, that is true. I try to combat this using this. Maybe it's talking about something like that, but memory systems. Yeah, I was gonna say SRS, but like I corrected myself. Memory systems um, do feel like inherently single player. But yeah, interested where he is going with this. Just let's just try my notes for it. Much of this is very difficult to productize. Maybe Anki feels like a good product, like good beginner product, and like most people use it. People really love it. We can definitely do better, but it feels like a good selling point if you will. But I feel his argument is more about like teaching people to have virtuous skill. Could there be a product for that? And he's talking about these two things. Like this almost feels to me like it's talking about uh, the collective versus single player thing. This feels like it's calling me out. And like this is one of those places where it feels like um, one common failure mode I have with annotating stuff, especially when I'm reading books, is that I annotate way too much. Like, let's say I can have, let's say something that like a highlight that goes across two paragraphs or like more than a page, right? But in many cases, I find it better to actually like break things down. So this might be one highlight, right? And what user interface, what features, what marketing. If I wanted to go really granular, all of these could be their own stuff. And like I could nest that underneath this one, right? By the way, this is because I, okay, and alternatively, of course, I could have done something like I could have created the highlight first and then that did this. Oh no, but that would have made it a different way. As you can see, this was not scripted before. Uh, but yeah, maybe I should make it work that way as well. But yeah, it feels like it's calling me out. Yeah, but it is like the thing is that is framing it in terms of questions, right? How did meditation and dance and yoga and basketball become popular? A really interesting question. What would high virtuosity in terms in use of memory systems look like? How do we get there? And what do we rapidly transfer those skills? Okay. And like this is where stuff comes. Like generally when I'm reading stuff, like if I find it enough interesting, like I would wait and like try to think of my answers to all of them before continuing. And having something that you can like pretty easily write in does help a lot in that regard, because otherwise I would have been tempted to just go underneath. And like one other thing I would like to do when I do stuff like this is like I like to make it visually distinctive when I'm reading this, like this and then these and then this and then these. Okay. How did meditation, dance, and yoga and basketball become popular? Some of those are sports, right? Basketball is a sport. Dance and yoga are performative things. yoga isn't. Yeah, meditation and yoga feels like a similar thing. Dance and basketball are performative things, so like they probably spread mimetically. But like I think the thing is going on about right now is like, how did the communities of practice around those things become popular? Like, to be honest, I don't know about the history of any of those, so like I'm not sure. Yeah, I know that there have been like uh, what do you call it, lineages of like teachers and students for stuff like meditation and yoga, and like it has spread like that. But yeah, really don't know. But like, and the second question is actually more interesting. What would high virtuosity in the use of memory systems look like? And it might look like having writing better cards, right? Writing better cards, writing better prompts, and like I think this is one of the major things. The other thing is realizing, like on a meta level, realizing what things to write cards for, what not to. Yeah, if I had like 2 hours to spend on this article, I would try to do this, and like that way I would gain a lot of it from the thing. But like I don't want to make this video that long. Uh, so yeah, I think we'll pause this for now and then continue. One point easy to miss is that virtuoso skill in using memory systems is possible. I think this is a very important point. It's not easily apparent. Like it just feels like if you've never done flashcard, if you've never, and I am denigrating it a bit by calling it just flashcards, but like if you've never done flashcards, then like it feels very simple, right? It just feels like a question answer. But like you realize that there are so many ways in which you can like slightly hint at the answers. Like maybe you don't want to do that, but maybe if it's something that you're like starting from scratch on, maybe you do want a bit of that cognitive aid. And then at the very high levels, you start thinking about stuff like cognitive load, and you start thinking about, okay, how do I make this the right cognitive load so that it acts as a optimized learning vehicle. So like that's a really important point. I definitely believe that virtuoso skill is important. Yeah, like I think this is kind of related to what I was talking about earlier, right? There's no obviously ostentatious skill on display. I think like this, and like this was related to what I said earlier, where I think I wrote it down. Yeah, actually, I was talking about that. And I think he's coming to his point, like how to make this. I mean, the system was how to make memory systems widespread, or like I think build a genius around them in a way. And like he says how his use is improved through hundreds of conversations with other people. Right? This is an important thing. So the reasons why people are skeptical, and let's tag all the others underneath that. These are actually quite common. Okay, so I have the internet. Why do I need them? Memory isn't important for or interferes with creative work. Like that's obviously wrong. Like you need to have at least a set of like you need to at least know the fundamentals, and like if you don't know that, like for example 12 plus 13 equals 25 without having to think really hard, then like you can't think through how you would do more complex mathematics. So it's similar to that. Like you need to at least have the building blocks, and like memory serves as that for a lot of people. And it memory systems especially help with stuff like spaced repetition, like because of the spaced repetition they also help you remember stuff for longer. So you have your fundamental building blocks in chunk in place, and essentially like you have your what do you call it? You have made memory your choice. I really love that term. Uh, but yeah, I hear this a bit. This can definitely be a, and I should not be talking this much. I should be using it as I would normally, which would be commenting on it. Um, Definitely a false dichotomy, but also another failure mode that I run into. By the way, failure mode is such a part of my vernacular that like I knew that I had a page for it. Group memory is bad. Doesn't matter. All of these are so great. Like I don't know if I should. I don't think I will. So yeah, why skeptics think about what specti- why people are skeptical about memory systems, and the second issue is that people use it very poorly. This is very important. I wonder what those elementary mistakes are. Okay, it doesn't elaborate on them. Okay, now he's talking about some common challenges with making. I guess this is also true to quite some extent, right? Okay, it's not neat. And like, let's make this a numbered list. I definitely can see cases where like the numbers are distracting from the content here. We'll add a method to disable it when we don't want it. I just like to see some visual hierarchy just even here and here. I find it useful. He's finally gotten to the crux, which I've taken so long to get into. But his main idea is that All of these arose out of strong cultures. And yeah, okay, that's a fair argument. I'm not sure how much I agree, but it's a fair argument. Okay, good. You won't talk about these because I was already convinced of these anyways. Yes, you speak about that. It feels like we're a little bit too nested right now. And sometimes I like to just like arrange stuff as I'm reading them just to understand all of the arguments the user has been making and then continue. Like, the good thing is that like we're now in developing a strong memory culture. I just move it down. He's talking about what I said earlier, right? So like this is such a good example. Like in many cases, what I found is that like even just knowing that I'll have a sidebar to nest things under, I might not nest these immediately, right? But the color is kind of a hint for myself, so, like telling me that like I probably like this is leading into those, and like later when I just even see these, even if I'm down here, I can say, okay, these are all part of that, and move on. But yeah, he's talking about it's talking about a genius. I should tag the document accordingly. Yeah, I'm really jealous about this. Like that he has had hundreds of hours of this conversation. Tag. Let me just a comment. It's definitely this. Programmers talk. Yeah, this is funny. I would not expect it to be. This point is so good, right? It's talking about how I kind of want to write it down myself. The very best parts of those conversations are, by the way, I'm really slow at writing down. Right in today's truths. This is such a good point. Like the main reason why I'm interested in tools for thought is because of this. Like you can have a community of practice. You can build like rituals. You can build um, like ways that you've found work well for some kind of workflow, and then the tool for thought embodies all of that uh, things that you've learned, all of the things the whole community has learned into something, so that like even someone who does not know about all of those things, who uses that tool, will naturally gravitate through those like revealed paths. But like that's why I'm interested in tools for that. Interesting. I don't even, maybe I just call it TFT. Yeah. But yeah, I also want to tag this as, the reason I'm doing that is also because like I plan on building some sort of um, memory system on top of these, and that will be highly dependent upon the things I've marked as favorite. So that's why I'm tagging those as I go along. You know, he's talking about his own little memory culture. He's talking about this guy who's uh, the super memo guy, Gwern, which you probably know about, Gwern.net, and Matushak, which you definitely need to know about. But yeah, cool people to look into. By the way, this, it is at this point where like I would have um, normally, I bet all of these are really interesting topics, right? Okay, that is one thing that kind sometimes happens. I wanted to, okay, but let's resume. Take more notes on it. And where were we? We were actually here, but like we had linked here. Let's do it safely for now. And generally, when I'm reading stuff like that, I like to have another window open for quickly reading through these if I want to. In practice, generally, I would probably just like add it here. By the way, you can do this via hotkey as well, and then just add it to my shortlist and go on. Like if I realize that this is something that I really want to read, so I do that. And probably similarly with current one. Maybe I've seen this one before. Okay, no, but like let's actually tag these with like memory systems and SRS, and then add them to my shortlist. Actually, love Gurn's thing. But yeah, let's continue. Yeah, definitely. I've like read so many of his things, and this is in the wrong place. Should be added here now properly. And of course, like you can clean these up. He's talking about something interesting, right? The distinction between the memory system and the skill in use collectively. Kind of want to that. Actually, let's go back to this. Okay, so the thing is interested in is like more how can we not how can we make a better system? He has worked a lot on that, but like more how can we get vastly better at using these systems? Is talking about how it needs to be a powerful skill and relatively transferable skill as well. So like in these cases, I like to use room native stuff, right? So you need it to be both powerful, so that people are incentivized to use it, and like that's the main point, right? Incentivized to use it. And actually, like because that's the point. And by transferable, I'm not exactly sure what he means. Like, it could be transferable among different skills. So like, if you learn how to write good prompts for a particular topic, you probably get good at other thing at writing prompts for other things as well. So maybe he's talking about something like that, but maybe he's talking about something different. Let's read on. Did he not talk about it? Has he already talked about transferability before? I didn't think so. I feel like he's talking about transferring between people while I was thinking about, but this is good to know, right? Like it's good to think through stuff like that. And he's talking about, okay, now he's getting to another interesting point. What would it look like to grow memory culture? Lots of little informal communities of practice, people nerding out, trying to push the edge of their art. This is very similar to the PKM culture, let's say. Yeah, there definitely was a conference recently. I don't remember the name, but I probably try to add that at some point here. Yeah, this is the thing that I'm very interested on. The best ideas and patterns of use will gradually feed back to modify the tools. Very interesting topic, yes. Very, very interesting topic, right? Like I was talking about how like you don't want everyone to be rediscovering uh, wheels from the start. What we actually want to be able to do is to like build upon, like stand on the shoulders of giants. Interesting. Yeah, other thing, like I've been thinking about reading extensively for a few months while working on this. And one of the things I find really fascinating is that, like, the difference in what different people highlight. For example, for someone, this might be something that they mine a lot of blocks out of, right? For me, not really that interesting. Yeah, this is interesting. He's talking about it feels different to what we were talking about before. Yeah, this is in a very fun way. This is kind of a meta thing. Like, uh, similar to how showing the skill of memory systems is harder, like it's not easily apparent to people, right? Like, if especially if you look at the output, like if you look at the flashcards, it's not necessarily apparent. Similarly, the like effortful reading of some article is not, and like that's why I'm recording this thing video. But it feels interesting, and like if you're interested in what he's talking about, one thing I recommend you watch. I think I was watching it recently, so I was like, yeah, this one. Yeah, like Antimato Shak has like this 1 hour, no, it's 2 hour long video with Dwarkis Patel where he's like reading through a thing, and like the main thing that I got from this especially was that like his he does not shy away from spending lot of time on reading something if it's actually dense, and if it actually merits it. And that's something I learned. Like before, I was very into speed reading everything, and now it makes sense. Like, okay, what questions is this arising in my mind? What like, and that's what's more important for me right now. Okay, okay. So he's talking about the ways in which memory systems are different from other skills. So the first thing is that it's largely internal. By the way, you should never shy away from changing these because like the highlights will still work. The other one is largely instrumental. Like not it's for a different end, like it's a means to an end. That's a good point, I guess. And in many ways, like this feels to me like a, we're at a conclusion point in the essay right now. How widely, and like I'm creating a different one because like I am realizing that I'm going to be mining this for questions now. How widely should they be used? Why deeply should they be used? How many people should be using them? And this is one place where like the numbers make sense. So like I can just move this up and this like this, and like it's easy to arrange stuff and think about it. I'm talking about startups now. So yeah, there are a bunch of companies in this space, right? There's the old tried and tested Anki. There are like Remnote, and there's one called Moki or something, and they're not. But until now, unless memory culture gets a lot stronger, I don't think. This is really interesting. Like informal culture of practitioners will first solve the many hard problems, and then it will be put into a new tool. It's interesting. I don't know if I agree with it. Like, eh, you can definitely build tools as a way of like encouraging people to think about things in a different way. To That's part of what we're doing with room reader. Like, if I did not have a room sidebar in the sidebar of this, I would not have read this as intentionally. And like, even just the practice of like clicking on it intentionally, clicking on take notes or like start reading, is a very intentional process. And um, I don't know where I'm going with this. uh, I think there is a world where like we can definitely like, it's definitely correct that the community of practice around it is very important. That has been very important to Rome as well, right? People learning how to use it well, um, and like starting with like what room the product gave it to them, and then like building on top of it and like reaching at a higher level is definitely important. I guess both of them are important. uh I don't really know like if like I don't I guess I don't see the point of this conclusion paragraph. Maybe people asked about it. uh but it feels to me like something that is definitely going to be done both by the culture and by products coming up. And like a new product comes up, like I think there have been like a few improvements in the SRS algorithm space recently, or like in the last few years, and a new product comes up and stuff like that, and then people start using it and then building upon it. And then I think both of them have a role to play here. Okay, this is interesting, right? Generally what I do is like, I created these before, but generally I don't even do something like this. I generally have an open block at the end anyways, and I just move it using hotkey, which is Command Shift down on Mac. I think it's slightly different on Windows, and then it just works. Kevin Similar, he has a really good nothing as about. It's a really good blog. Um, does you have interesting in the footnotes? This is interesting. Like how many people? That would be good to do some napkin math on, but probably no way to know. What is this about? Oh, okay, it's interesting. I've added these. Okay, I'm interested in the, what do you call it? This one, using flashcards to become a better programmer one. So is this the original spacing effect article? That would be good to save. By the way, like part of the reason why I included the headings right now was to show you like one workflow of doing stuff. But like one thing that I actually like about doing stuff like that is like when I later will find this, it helps to know that it was in the footnotes of this thing, right? Instead of something in the middle. Uh, it sometimes helps, yeah. Sadly, this might be something that has been lost due to link rot. Let's check if the site still works. This is actually a really good like example. Like, uh, I did not plan on this, but I'm really excited that this is. So generally, when you are into stuff like this, the thing you do is you go to archive.ph or archive.org, and then find it, right? And I'm feeling absolutely giddy that this worked out. But yeah, so maybe it worked in 2023. It does not surprisingly have older ones. The reason I said surprisingly, of course, was that like because Michael was talking about this, I think, for interesting him in the first place about SRS, and like he has been writing on memory systems since like the last 10 years at this point, probably. So like it's interesting that the first snapshot was in 2023. So like we might actually not have the data here, but this is good. We have data. So the thing I wanted to share was, and I did some work on trying to get this working. And that's why I'm interested. Uh, like I hate link rot, right? But for example, if you had annotations on this page, and if you went here, it would show up. That's something I explicitly worked on. Like you can see that when it saves, you can see that the URL that is saved is the old one. So at some point, if the old one starts working, when you go to the old one, you can see your highlights there. And of course, like you can annotate stuff while you're in archive.org as well. There's no easy way for me to show it here, but like, especially because this page did not load. So I don't know if this will show that I have highlights. Probably not, because the page did not load. Maybe there's another way. Archive.ph. Does another of these things have this article? Because that would be good. Actually, there's another way as well. No, it does not look like they have a thing. The thing I was going to show was that one way of showing that essentially is like, oh, when was this from? This is from February 13th, right? So I can open the version on March. Oh, it actually failed on March, so I can't show that. That's a shame. But I think you get my point, right? Like if you save annotations here, then it also works when you open it on the actual web page, which I thought was a really good feature. But yeah, okay. This is probably too long. What I plan to do next was something that I like to do for articles that I find a lot of insight from. And then what I end up doing is that I end up making a diagram. You've probably seen Rome diagrams before, right? But one good thing about these is that they, like when you're using those with highlights. Oh, by the way, the way I would, let me actually show you how I would do that. Like at the end of this, right? I finished reading this. I like in this case, I'd open it in Rome as well because I want to do more stuff on it. But what I was going to talk to you about was like my workflow. So I mentioned that I have inbox and shortlist. Shortlist is essentially a shortlisted version of inbox, right? And then when I've read the stuff, I archive it. Right, so article archive. Do you want to close the sidebar? Yes, close the sidebar. It's done. So now, like when I'm in Rome, I create the diagram. Actually, let's open the notes to the side again. In many cases, I actually do want to remove this. For now, I won't, but you can do that. And let's open the diagram. And then essentially, it's just a fun thing of like, you can just drag and drop things into the thing. It especially helps if you have a very large screen. And then this is another way of engaging with the material where like it's really fun and it's really, I found it really useful. So I do like to collapse things a bit and then start thinking. But yeah, in this case, this video is pretty long already, so I won't do that. But hopefully you can see how this translates, and especially since like if it's something that I have written on top of it, which to be honest, I didn't do much of in this because like because I just spoke a lot. Like if I were writing this myself, this is not a faithful representation of how I would read because most of the things I've talked about, I would be writing them. But the good thing is that like when you've pulled them onto the canvas, you can easily see which part of those are yours, right? So this one is like obviously something that I wrote. This one has a quote, so it's probably not something that I wrote. This is probably something that I tried to highlight from something else. And then you can see that all of the highlights with the colors automatically get the colors here. I think I'm going to nest this underneath that. If I wanted to think about like what to explore next time, I'd have like 3 blocks like this, and like, right, and this could be my what to read next, something like that. Maybe I also want this to read next. I think this, I shouldn't have made it smaller, but yeah. And maybe I'll read Kevin's symbol just for the fun of it. Like his blog is so fun. So yeah, one of the main things I wanted to try to show here is that like this is a very important outcome, right? Like this output is really good because like later I might find stuff that I want to link to it and stuff like that. But like in many cases, the act of intentionally reading the article with a thing where I could make sense of it, one of the main benefits of something like that is like I read the article so much better because of it, and like I understand it much well. I'll probably never use the term SRS again. I will call them memory systems. I have a better understanding of like some communities of practice regarding stuff like meditation, and regarding like I learned about the different complaints that like at some level I didn't know about these complaints that people generally have regarding memory systems, but like he like talked about them pretty well. And like I might spend some time making these notes better, adding nesting and stuff like that, or I might not, and but I still would have a much better experience reading and uh, engaging a lot more deeply with the material and learning more from it. So that's mostly it, I think. uh, what other things? I'm just wondering if there's anything else I'd want to show you about this right now. I don't think so. Yeah. So the last thing I want to say is like, um, what was the name? River. I definitely should make this better. Okay, so I do actually have the thing saved. So my philosophy for I save a lot of stuff for reading later, and I don't read most of it. My philosophy is that my to-do read pile is I treat it as a river, not like a bucket. So the idea is not that I have to finish everything. The idea is more that like um, I like this is a place where I capture, and I might not read all of it. Um, in many cases, like when I go through this, like maybe I find something that I find interesting, and then I move it to the short list so that I will hopefully get to it because it adds it to the top of the short list. Uh, but my read it later methodology is something like that. So I do not treat it as a bucket that I have to finish. It's more like a river. I dip in, like you can imagine a river going down, and like it has a bunch of stuff. I dip into it. I dip into what's currently at the top right now, and then drink it, I guess, the analogy, and then that's how it works. Um, so yeah, that's it. Hopefully, this gives you a good sense of like how I use one of the ways I use Roam Reader. So one of the ways in which I use it intentionally to deeply read something. Uh, yeah, hopefully this was useful. Let me know what you think. I would definitely like to make a community of practice around reading, like he was talking about a community of practice regarding memory systems. So if you're interested in that, you should join the room Slack, and maybe I'll make a channel for it. I don't know. So that's it. Have a good day.